Hello, everyone. Welcome back from spring break. This Screencastify is to help you with our nonfiction article that we're reading today. We're reviewing finding evidence, making inferences, writing a quick summary, and main idea. So, first, let's just read this article. Of course, you know that this has to do with Mahmoud in our story, Refugee. The Syrian Civil War. Syria is a country located in Western Asia, also known as the Middle East. The country lies south of Turkey and west of Iran. Syria has a population of over 17 million and is a very diverse society. People in Syria largely practice the Islam religion, which includes many sects such as Sunni, Shiites, Alawites, and more. Many ethnic groups make up the Syrian population, including the Syrian Arabs, Arameans, and Kurds, Turkomans, and others that reside in the country. Although Syria is only 71,000 square miles in area, it is an incredibly diverse nation when compared to some of its larger neighbors. The history of Syria. The country of Syria was a founding member of the United Nations and formally became an independent nation on October 24th, 1945, after the end of World War II. The country had a tumultuous start with many changes in control before the Ba'ath Party came to power in 1963. From 1971 to 2000, the country was led by Hafez al-Assad and then taken over by his son, Bashar al-Assad. Although the region was relatively stable during this time, there are many who accuse al Assad and his regime of human rights abuse and extreme censorship. Civil unrest. In the early months of the year 2010, protests began to rock many nations in the Arab world. The protests started in Tunisia and spread to 5 other countries: Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Bahrain, and Syria. Many of these uprisings stemmed from citizens wanting to be free from their rulers and claimed that their governments were oppressive. People took to the streets to protest, but the demonstrations were not always peaceful. Riots, civil war, and insurgency stemmed from these protests, causing chaos in the participating countries. Thousands gather at Homs, Syria, to demonstrate against al-Assad regime. In Syria, the protests continued for nearly a year before there was a turning point in the conflict. Protesters were met by armed forces who were violently suppressed. This began a vicious uprising in Syria that would last from March to July. Bashar al-Assad attempted to calm the disorder by sending troops to silence the protesters and urging the media to transmit pro-Syrian propaganda. This only angered the protesters further. The situation would become more complicated when soldiers from Syria defected or deserted the army to join newly formed Free Syrian Army created in July 29th, 2011. The conflict was now a civil war. Calls for Assad's removal fell on deaf ears, and the confrontation widened to include other countries such as well. Russia, Syria's largest ally or friend, backed pro-Assad forces, while the other countries backed rebel forces. Today, the Syrian Civil War is a complex web of friend and foe as the war has waged on for nearly a decade. Each side contains an intricate network of enemies, whether motivated by religion, nationality, or ethnicity. The conflict continues. Criticism on all sides continues as peace talks led by the United Nations have been ongoing since 2017. The Syrian war has created a refugee crisis with over 22 million people forced to leave their homes due to violence and unrest. With so many variables at play, it is unclear at this time how the conflict will end. And here we have a picture of a Syrian refugee camp. on the Turkish border in 2012. Interesting. Gives us some points of view on what Mahmoud and his family were going through. So if you look at your paper, the first 5 questions want you to highlight certain information in the article. Now, you may or may not have all the colors it tells you to use at your table. If you don't, you can use your pencil and just put numbers next to it, next to the answer, or you can use different, any color, and just make sure you label it with a number. We're going to do the first 5 together. Number 1 says, find the sentence that states who has reigned over Syria for the past several decades. Highlight in yellow. So, oops. Oh, well, here. We might as well use that. So as I was reading, I was paying attention to who has reigned. And I remember, and you're going to do this on your paper, that it says that the Ba'ath, oh, you're not yellow. Oh, barely. You're the Ba'ath family became the rulers. And, oh, I like that better. I bet that's what I want. And then you're going to write a little number 1 right there. Let's see. My brain forgot how to use Cami over the break. Let's try this. And we'll put 1. Well, put a 1. Okay. The next question says, find one sentence that gives an example of how Syria is a diverse nation. Highlight it in orange. So I remember in this first paragraph, look at all of our highlighters. Let's see here. I'm going to try this again. Eraser, drawing, no. Okay, let's see if I can do it. It talks about that there are many, different ethnic groups that make up the Syrian population, including the Syrian Arabs, Arameans, Kurds, Turkmens, and others that reside in the country. So you can underline that. That is number 2. Okay. Then number 3 says, find the sentence that identifies when the current Syrian crisis began. Okay. So if we look, we're scanning for dates. And here we go. And it says to do green. Again, see, I don't even have green. So I'm going to make mine red. So the civil unrest happened. It began in 2010 when protests started to rock the Arab world. Oh, you know how. Okay, number 3. All right. So I've done the first 3. I think you see what to do. I want you to do 4 through 10 independently. Number 4 says find one piece of evidence in the text that shows how conflict escalated into a civil war. So what made the Civil War happen? Highlight that in pink or anything and just label it number 4. Number 5, find one piece of evidence in the text that shows how many people have been displaced or had to flee their homes as a result of the Syrian war. Highlight in blue. You're going to label that number 5. Then you have 3 multiple choice questions, 6, 7, and 8. Number 9, you're going to write a statement that identifies the main idea of this article. So that would start, the main idea is, and then you're going to tell the main idea. And then number 10, write a brief objective, that means all the facts, summary of this article. So it should be at least 3 to 4 sentences. When you finish, you may continue working on your Snapchat from spring break, Raise your hand if you have any questions, and you're going to turn in your highlighted paper and your answered paper at the end of the block. Bye.